Are you all right
Cool.
to crack straight on then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Beautiful, lovely job. Right, folks, welcome to this week's podcast. And this week we've got Jody Millhouse from Thornton Hundred Motorcycles. Hello, mate. How's it going?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm absolutely drained after a very, very, very tough week. It's been absolutely non-stop. It's such an interesting thing at Thornton Hundred. Nobody thinks about motorcycles in the winter. As soon as the sun comes out, everyone is on the phone to me. Jody, I want my bike and I want it yesterday. And it's always a mad rush. And it's an interesting one right now because we are growing at a rate of knots. We are growing so wildly fast, and we're keeping up. We're keeping up, but it's hard work for sure.
We'll get into that because I couldn't believe like how long your brand, your company has been going, and where you are to where you're actually working. Well, not even working. You've attained it. Where you're going next, because it's exciting developments for the future, isn't it? So before we get into that, how about Jody? What I normally do with guests is I just throw the floor open to you to begin with, and just go, what's your name? Where'd you come from? What you do? So Thornton Hundred, Jody Millhouse, both.
Jody Millhouse. I own a company called Thornton Hundred, and we build custom Triumph motorcycles. We work very closely with the factory. I'm actually ambassador for Triumph motorcycles myself. I started the company 4 years ago now, like I said, and we'll go into a bit more detail on that in a bit. We're based in Milton Keynes, and I have 4 employees, one of which is knocking around behind me. Stevie. Stevie is my media man. He takes all the photos, does all the videos, and that's all he does. He does content, Instagram reels, photos, all of that good stuff. We're growing at an absolute rate of knots. It's been an incredible journey so far. I'm sure we'll go into a little bit more detail that's me and that's what I do.
So essentially, I mean, you started by customizing existing bikes, and now you've got to a point where you take a bike straight from the factory and you bling it up to like the incredible levels, the customization that you do there at Thornton Hundred. Folks, if you're not following either the YouTube or their Instagram in particular, get yourselves along. I'll put links down below. Make sure you follow it, because it's.
Check us out.
I've been watching some of your vids today on the YouTube channel. And I'm not just sucking up to you because you're a guest on the podcast, but your whole brand, your whole corporate image, it's class. Everything about it is just, it's gorgeous.
It's an interesting one.
I wish I had the creative ability that you and, obviously Stevie and all the members of your team have, because you all certainly seem to be singing from the same song sheet there.
It's an interesting one. So the brand, I'm only just 25.
I know. You make me sick.
Stevie is the next youngest at 24. Connor is 23 and Alex is 22. So we're all very young. And it's interesting you say about the branding and stuff like that. So, like, for example, my logo, I came up with the name myself. I came up with the brand and the logo, everything myself. And I don't know anything about branding or logos or anything like that. I just thought it looks cool, And I just went, I have no qualifications in branding. I have no anything.
Wow.
And as of a month and about 6 weeks ago, I took on Connor, who we have full-time, who does our marketing. And so up until now, realistically, it's all just me and what kind of comes out my head, and it's been me kind of winging it, I suppose. And even with everything, I don't know how to run a business, or I didn't. I didn't know how to build a motorcycle. I didn't know how to weld. I didn't know how to paint. But if you want something bad enough, you'll work hard enough to go and get it. If you've got a vision. Like I have, and I will work until I am dead and bleeding on the floor, and to make sure that actually is going to happen. And we're fortunate enough to have been growing for the last 4 years at such a pace. It was slow at start, but now we're flying at 1,000 miles an hour, and we're very fortunate to have some very good customers, some very good clients, and be working with some cool brands, to keep that that pace and that momentum. But like you say about the branding, it's me winging it.
Mate, gee whiz, you've struck gold, because it's cracking. I tell you what, my throat is gasping here. Shall we crack open the beers?
Cheers, dude.
Slangs, to your health.
Nice one. I said to the boys, they were like, Teapot, they were like, you have to get a brew on the go. I was like, it's Friday night. I was like, I've worked 70-hour weeks the last 2 weeks. I was like, no. I was like, no. The parade. I was like, go to the shop, get some beers.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing. You know, I'm known as TeapotOne, but I drink coffee. I don't really drink tea. But I prefer a beer, obviously. But
yeah.
So let's go back to the origins then. Thornton 100. Like, where'd the name come from? How did you get into it? How did it all start?
That's an interesting one. So when I started, I wanted to build cafe races. You know, I'll go back to the start of, I'll tell about Thornton 100 and about the name and that initially, and not about how I started. So I was building cafe races, and I wanted to come up with a name for my business. And I had a very short period. It took me 3 days to come up with this name, and lots of notes and scribbles and other things. So basically, my first workshop was a shipping container. I come from a family with zero money. I get a lot of comments from people going, "Oh, this guy's got a trust fund," kind of thing. I come from zero. I started Thornton 100 with a £2,500 limit credit card and minus £12,000 in loans and debts that I had to pay off, and I'll go into a bit detail on that in a bit. But Thornton 100, I was building cafe races. It was the shipping container was plonked out the front of a farm in a very small village called Thornton, and that is just outside of Milton Keynes, and it's about 5 miles from here. We're not there anymore, unfortunately, but I still like the name. So that's kind of where Thornton came from. But because I was building cafe races, I wanted to kind of give a bit of a nod to cafe races and doing the ton up boys kind of thing. So that's where the 100 came from, 100 mile an hour, doing the ton up boys, cafe races type thing. But also it kind of ties back into Thornton, because Thornton's a medieval village. And back in medieval times, villages weren't called villages, they were called hundreds. So it's kind of, and Thornton was one of 1700s in Buckinghamshire. So that's kind of like Thornton 100, Thornton 100 mile an hour kind of thing, doing the ton, but Thornton village type of thing as well. So it kind of ties in, I could have been JM Customs or whatever, but it was I wanted something a bit different, and it sounds cool, So yeah, that's what it means. That's the name.
And it fits your brand as well, though, isn't it? Because you've obviously got a very strong relationship with Triumph. Triumph's British. You're a British company. There's the British history there associated with the 100 name. It's different, and it fits you guys, doesn't it? Absolutely.
It's different, yeah. And I like it. It is different, and people kind of look at it and go, Thornton 100. It's got that kind of prestige air about it.
Absolutely.
That kind of a little bit more, something a little bit different, something that's got a little bit of thought behind it, and that's what we're all about, really.
Nice. So how did you get into building bikes then? How did that all come about?
So when I was 16, I started a mechanical engineering apprenticeship. I didn't go and do my A-levels. I wanted to start earning money straight away. And I wanted to basically be hands-on. And get a bit of experience, really. So I decided to go down the apprenticeship route. So I did my apprenticeship in mechanical engineering, which was a bit of electrical theory, it's a bit of mechanical theory, and it was all to do with stresses and strains and beam bending and metallurgy and studies of metals and grain growth and crystalline structures and metals. And it's all basically advanced mathematics that I could never really get on, and I kind of winged it as well. So that's kind of where my knowledge of designing something strong comes in, and my understanding of load paths and how to load something and put it into a software that's going to be able to tell us if it's going to be strong enough or not, basically.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of what I pulled from that. But basically, when I left my apprenticeship, I was promised the world. I got to the end of my fourth year, and I was basically crapped on by my managers and the director. And I remember being sort of 19-ish at the time, 19 and a half, and coming up to 20 and just kind of sitting there all like reading this contract with like tears in my eyes going like, wow, you guys have really done me dirty. Because what they'd done is they tied me into a contract and I couldn't leave for 2 years unless I paid back all of my tuition fees.
Oh.
So yeah, so that's kind of an interesting one. So yeah, basically at the time I was doing all right. I was working every single day. I had like 3 jobs. I was working really hard, and I had a bit of a nice car going on. Basically, I built a couple of bikes in the evening. I basically built a Jawa TS350, like a 2-stroke thing, and I sold it to a bloke. I put it on the bike share classifieds, and I sold it to a bloke in Belgium. And I was like, I'm going to go and build bikes. I was like, I love motorbikes. I was like, I'm going to go build bikes. So I was literally just like 2 fingers up to these guys. See you later. I'm leaving. Told them I would work my notice, and I actually left the next day. I kind of handed my notice in, and I was like, do you know what? These guys are going to find me. All of my tuition fees was about 7,000 quid at the time. So I was like, right, I'm going. See you later. And basically, the thing that kind of kicked me over the edge was basically my mum kind of sitting me down and going, you know what, Jody, you're not going to be on the street. You're only young. If it's gonna work, do it now, because you haven't got any kids, you're not married, you haven't got any other. You know, I will feed you, and you will have a roof over your head. And I'm like, that's all I need. Okay, great. Let's go and see if we can make this work. So that's why when I left, you know, I did everything so fast. I set up the workshop. With the shipping container, and just begged, borrowed, and stealed all the tools I can. I had to get loans out to pay back the tuition fees. I had to get loans out to just pay to build the first bike. I couldn't afford to build them. I couldn't afford to buy that. I couldn't afford the 500 quid to go and buy a KZ250 or something like that, you know. So I was like, right, I'm gone. And I remember just being in that workshop till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, going home, few hours sleep, coming back in the morning, going, I've got to finish this bike. And I've got to move it along and sell it, and then move it along and then sell it. So yeah, that's really how I kind of got started at absolute zero. So yeah, no trust funds, no mummy and daddy kind of, apart from, you know, bless them, putting a roof over my head. Apart from that, you know, that's really how I got started. So it's what seemed like the end of the world at the time was really a blessing in disguise. And obviously it's working out quite well at the moment. I don't know. We might see I might crash and burn. You know, like I say, I don't know anything about business, but you know, I'm winging it. I do a bit now, but you know, winging it, and we're kind of making it up as we go along, really.
Absolutely. But I mean, fortune favours the brave, mate. And you always find this. I've had so many different people on the podcast who've achieved incredible things in their lives, whether that's, you know, predominantly my sort of area is motorcycle adventure travel, but I've had people that have rode the Atlantic on here. I've had all sorts, you know, and everybody always seems, everyone has made that leap of faith. Everyone has gone for it in whatever form it is. And you're right, it might not work out, but it may well, you know.
I tell you what, though, we had a lot of fun doing it.
Absolutely. You know? And I always think, the way I always think of things is that, you know, your plan might be to aim for A, but along the way, you know, maybe A doesn't work out, or you decide, I don't actually want to go to A, I want to go to D. So let's go here now and see what the journey's like.
There's been a few kind of shifts like that, whereas, you know, initially when I started, I was like, right, I'm just going to do bikes and build them and kind of move and just carry on with used bikes. And I was like, one day I was like, do you know what? This isn't viable. I'm working like a dog.
Mate, your video is just you're back now.
Someone's trying to ring me. Right. My phone is always ringing. A customer's ringing me at 7 o'clock on a Friday night. Honestly, it never stops. It worked. Like, I was working like a dog, and I was like, you know what? Like, there's got to be a point here where I've got to make this. Like, I've got to actually start to make some money. I'm young. I want to buy a house. You know, I want a nice car back. You know, I want those. I want to be able to move it along, because all of my friends, you know, they're all kind of finishing their A levels. They're in uni, and kind of they're starting to take off. And really, I kind of lagged a bit, like in terms of like where they're at with their lives, and where I kind of started from zero again. You know, like I was like, right, well, you know, I want to do a new Triumph. And I remember building up my money, that pot. Every single bit of money I made went back into the pot. It got reinvested in more bikes, and I made enough money to buy my first brand new Triumph. I remember sitting in the dealership in Pure Triumph Bonneville, and they come over, they made me a coffee and that. And I said to them, I remember sitting there and saying to Kevin, I remember just saying, like, I'm going to be back. Like, I'm going to buy a lot of bikes from you. And I remember him kind of sitting there and going,
oh, bless.
Okay, bless him. You know, he's only like 23, come on. I had 30 bikes off him last year.
Jeez, did you?
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're kind of we're like I say, we're flying really, and but like I say, we're having a lot of fun. The guys are great. You know, we're all really we're all just on the same page really. And we get on so well, and we have a blast doing it. And you know, none of us ever really have any real experience. It's just Alex and Connor's first job. You know, they've never, which is I always say to them, because me and Stevie have swept the floor before, you know, made the tea and all that kind of, you know. But those two haven't. But you know, we still have a laugh, you know. But they get a bit of stick for it. But no, we have a really good time, you know. And we're building some incredible machines for some incredible people too. And we're fostering relationships that are creating huge opportunities and opening doors for us that I would have never have even seen. Like just this, I can't tell you too much about it, but just this morning we received an email from a very large company, very well known. Kind of cafe and hotel chain, and hopefully we'll be doing something with them. But that is going to be our very first large corporate deal, and that kind of will take us down the route of American chopper style, kind of building big bikes for companies and charging them lots of money to do it, kind of thing, you know, which is nice. And I think that will be fun. That will be an interesting experience. But I think for me, what I would be missing from that build is the rapport that I would build with a customer. So, for example, I'm looking at the workshop now. There's a Thruxton RS. I'll show you guys around a bit. There's Thruxton RS here. That's Joe Wicks' bike. That's his fourth bike from me. Me and Joe are like best friends now. The next one along is another customer called Paul, and that is his third bike from us. And then I have the one along, which is the first bike, and then another one along, which is my bike, which is the world's fastest bobber.
This is taking a while, isn't it? You've had some issues.
It's yet to be proved. Do you know what my problem is? I will do something to it, and I'll go, do you know what? I can do that better. Or, oh, do you know what? If we, and it's like, for example, you ever built a project and gone, oh, that'll do for now. You know, there's nothing on that bike that I've gone, oh, that'll do for now. It's like, no, take it completely apart, do it properly. Let's show the world exactly what we can do.
It's your baby, isn't it? It's your
my baby.
baby.
My hands are still dirty. I've only just finished putting our very first upside down front fork kit on it and a full Olin suspension. So it's all fully custom made. We work with the Olin's factory and custom made like the whole front end. So it looks awesome. And I've got to go and test it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun that. So it's a good project, you know, and it is testing of my patience, testing of my wallet, and testing of our skill, because we are trying to do something that nobody's ever really done before. You know, there has been one bobber that did the Bonneville salt flats, and it was naturally aspirated with tiny little skinny little tires. It did 147 mile an hour average across both ways on the salt flats, and it was like my bike will do 147 mile an hour on the way to the pub. It's so fantastic. Fantastic.
When are you thinking then? When are you thinking you'll be on the salt flats?
I actually, what it is with this bike, so we've got it all done and dusted. And what I've done is I've basically, we had a custom loom made for it. I've hacked it about and chopped it and changed it because it needs to be changing so much and so much. So it's going back again on Sunday for its final fit, custom loom. Really nice. Everything's the right length. Nothing's been cut open and adjusted and then put back together. So everything's just going to be smart. And then at the end of next month, I've actually got an event, a drag racing event. One of my friends, DMO, is running an event called DMAX 250. It's kind of like a private drag racing event at Silverstone. But I've got to. They've kind of paired a load of people on these races. They've paired me with a guy on a BSB spec R1. So that will be an interesting race. I'm still working on my launch control, my anti-wheelie, my suspension geometry and all that kind of fun stuff, because I'm not a drag racer. I've never been on a drag strip before. And I've got to turn up, dominate, and then I might
you're riding it?
Yeah, I'm going to ride it there. That's the plan. Wow. Ride it there, turn up, dominate, and ride it home.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it.
You're going to do it. You got to do it properly. You're going to be a bear grizzly, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Right. I don't know if you know how the format works on here. I post up on my Patreon and social media, say who the next guest is, and then people have a day or two to leave their questions, and then we just go through the questions and see where it takes us.
Fantastic.
I appreciate you're a busy man. You're tight for time here.
I got time. I've been running around all day, and I'm like, right, I'm going to sit here, and this will be my very last engagement for the day.
Right. I tend not to pre-read these questions. Sometimes they can be like specifically about the guest, and other times they are totally random. So we'll just see how it goes.
Let's hear it. Let's go.
Right. First, as always, folks, we'll head to Patreon first. So it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Paul Foster. Hi to you both. Looking forward to this episode. Question for Jody. Will you be getting a coffee machine at the new workshop so we can stop by on rideouts? And secondly, when will you be getting larger size t-shirts? Because I'm 6'5", 20-odd stone rugby player, and the only thing that fits me from your store are the hats. Take care, Paul.
I love that. That's a very good question. Okay, so two things on the coffee machine. Yes, we are having a coffee machine. We are working with Express Coffee, who work with all the BSB boys.
Gotcha,
they're actually our new neighbours at our new workshop. So we're building a new workshop. It's going to be completely built from scratch and to our spec, and that'll be finished October, they reckon, but I'm probably aiming at January. But perfection takes time. So yes, we're going to have a coffee machine. Are you going to be able to turn up and come and have a coffee with me? I'm going to say no at this point, because if I told you that, I would do nothing but sit there and drink coffee with customers. Exactly. And it's a genuine struggle. And we do get people kind of turning up, and I appreciate it, and I'm polite and accommodating and this, that, and the other. But when that person is there, all of my focus is on that person. And I'm so, for example, you know, like say I've worked 140 hours approximately in the last 2 weeks, you know. I am absolutely flat. I'm going grey, you know, and I'm like barely 25. There is only so many hours in a day, and I'm trying to grow this company to the very best of my ability. So yes, we will have a coffee machine. Yes, you could probably come and drink from it when we have our open days. But what we're also aiming at is there is a certain venue very closely to us. So it's a motorcycle dealership that we are aiming to take over in 2023, and that will be the Thornton 100 Bar and Grill / sort of ride out venue area type, bike shed type, caffeine machine type thing, but in the middle kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yes, you'll be able to come on our open day and drink the coffee, and yes, we will have the coffee machines in our new area. Which will be our new venue, which is a couple of years away yet. There's a lot of money, hundreds of thousands to be invested there, but it's going to be absolutely spot on. And we've got to make some money for us to pay for it. So
absolutely, definitely.
Yes, larger size t-shirts and clothing. So I'm wearing one of the original Thornton 100 tees. As you can see, it is way too small for me because I've washed it 100 times, and it is all, and not even I have the nice clothing yet. So what kind of bugs me about clothing is when people do it, they kind of use blanks and kind of just buy a blank, print their thing on it, and sell it for like a 700% markup, whatever, something like that. And I'm like, right, okay, mark it up what you will, but if you're going to charge that, just make sure it's the right kind of kit. Now, I could not for the life of me find a T-shirt that A, fits me. I'm a bit of an upside down triangle. I've got a 46-inch chest and a 32-inch waist, and I'm a bit kind of like that. And nothing ever fits me very well. So what we've kind of done is we took our, we worked with our clothing supplier. We took our favourite T-shirts. My one actually happened to be a Triumph T-shirt. And we picked a special material, which is a cotton with elastine in it as well. And we actually had it, all of our new T-shirts are going to be cut and stitched together to exactly how we've asked them to be stitched with all of our tags. They've got a slight bit of give in them too, so they're nice and comfortable to wear. But they're also going to be up to sizes triple XL. Nice. So, you know, we're going to be able to accommodate all of those guys. But the T-shirts are custom made, and we have put 6 months worth of effort into these T-shirts and our clothing to make sure that it is just as good as our bikes are. Because if we're going to stick a Thornton 100 stamp on it, it's got to be the absolute best it possibly could be, and I will not let it go if it's not. Absolutely,
man. Yeah, you've set the standard, haven't you? You've set the height of the bar, and everything associated has to be that.
It has to be absolute top notch, you know. And they are. I don't think the clothing is not is kind of pricey. I don't think we're as bad as some people with it doing a bit of market research. But for what some people are selling blanks for, we're selling a properly handmade t-shirt and hand stitched t-shirt that's done properly, that we've put a lot of effort into. So I don't think they're going to be silly priced, but I think there's going to be one of those t-shirts. You ever have a t-shirt or a bit item of clothing that you have for like 10 years and it's always there, and it's never got a hole in it, it's never fallen apart, it's just there. And that I want our Thornton 100 t-shirt to be that t-shirt.
I've got pants like that, Jody. I've got pants like that. Nice one, Paul. Next question. Philippe Martin. Hi, both. Just joined the clan. That's my sort of community on Patreon. And I'm really excited to be part of it and share the space with you guys. Here's my first question for Jody. Do you start your mod projects from an idea and then find the right bike for it? Or is it just an idea comes from a bike you already have in mind?
Okay, so usually the ideas, so all of our bikes are usually commissioned. So someone comes to me and goes, Jody, I want a bobber or a scrambler or a T120 or a Thruxton or this and the other. And we only focus on Triumphs. We don't want to upset Triumph. We have a very good working relationship with them. Not that we can't do other bikes. I've done other bikes. I've done the Ducatis. I've done Kawasaki's. I've done all sorts of bits and bobs and Hondas, and I can do them. We have a very good working relationship with Triumph, and I don't want to upset them.
Gotcha.
And they work very well with us. So usually someone will come to us and say, look, Jody, I want a bobber. And they'll go, I want it different. And our motto is we never build the same thing twice. And not once have we built the same thing twice. There is always something different, or the paint's different, the colour, the shade's different, the exhaust is different, the wheels are different, the tyres different, blah, blah, blah. So usually someone will come to us and ask for a commission. Every now and then I will go, right, we've got a bit of a gap between kind of builds. Let's get X bike in and build this. I will usually have an idea brewing in the back of my head. And sometimes, like, for example, the scrambler that I have on the ramp over there that I'll show you in a bit, I really, really, really wanted to build a supermoto. I want a supermoto. I want to base it on a Triumph scrambler because they're great engines, they're great suspension, they're great chassis, and they really do work very well. So I was like, right, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I just kind of hinted to one of my customers, actually, and this is his third bike now. I was like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. And he was like, tell me more. Tell me more, which is great. So, if I can get a customer to pay for it and I can build out my wildest dreams, then it's great. Yeah. If I can't, then I will just do it. But my problem is I don't know when to stop. And that's when we end up with something like my world's fastest bobber. And we're in around a 60,000 quid hole and, X amount of hours, that I haven't even counted. And, because I will just keep going until it's the best thing that I could possibly make it. So, that's usually how it works.
Gotcha. Philip's got a second question. He says, for both of us, do you consider yourself a good rider? I don't want to constrain the answer by defining good rider, but rather wanted to know how critical you are to yourself about the way you ride in all aspects you normally take into account. So I take it you ride on the road. Well, you must ride on the road. You're riding the bobber to the drag strip, aren't you?
I do ride on the road, yeah. So we'll start with me. So what defines a good rider? Because if you ask I am or a Rosberg rider, if I'm a good rider, they might kind of go, yeah. If you ask me if I can stand it up on the back wheel and wheelie it down the road for 5 miles, I absolutely can do that. And yes, I can back it in sideways into a corner and come out of it on the one wheel, kind of, spinning it up at the same time and do feet up donuts. Is that a good rider? Define a good rider. The good rider on the road, I think, comes with experience. Obviously, yourself, you're a very, very, very experienced rider. You have a lot more miles under your belt than I do. I have done a few sort of tours. Actually, my first sort of tour was abroad, was on a Honda XR600 that I built myself when I was 16. When I turned 17, I passed my test. And this was a basket case. I passed my test and we hopped on it. I went with my dad and we did 10,500 miles in 3,500 miles in 10 days. We went all the way down to south of France, followed up around the Alps and then kind of up through Belgium, Germany, and then across, So that was, that's miles under your belt and you learn a lot, doing that kind of thing, when you come around the corner and you're on the wrong side of the road and there's a car there and you are automatically programmed to go left where you should be going right, and it's one of those. So In terms of rider skill, I used to ride competition trials. So my clutch control, throttle control, balance is pretty much as good as I think that I would want to be. So in terms of in rider ability, you know, I've no issues. And my brother is second in the British Stunt Championship as well. So Evan Millhouse, yeah. So we are all very, very talented riders off road. You know, whether we're taking the right line or I'm doing a lifesaver at the right time and indicating at the right point. Debatable. I think I'm very comfortable with riding on the road, and I'm very comfortable riding anything on the road. So I think
I'd say that's a yes, Philippe. That's a yes.
So, you know, obviously, what would you define as a good rider? You know, I mean, as a safe rider, I don't know. Sometimes I get back on a ride and go, "Oh, that was a bit silly," you know.
Yeah, but I mean,
like that, you know.
Yeah, I think, well, you get all different types of rider, don't you? If we just look at road in particular, you get all different types of rider. You get riders that get the thrill out of going quick and enjoying it. And, you know, I've been that in the past, and I thought I was perfectly safe, you know, and I think I probably, looking back, I was, because I never had any issue. I never caused any other road users to, you know, be alarmed at my presence or anything. Yeah. Actually, I said I never had one issue. I did actually slide the bike off a mountain in Germany once, which was entirely my own fault, going too quick. But I think as you age and as you see a bit more, I've been involved in a couple of accidents now, mostly all commuting in and out of London, you know, just crazy traffic. And I think as I've got a little bit older, I think I'm conscious my reactions aren't what they were. I'm not superhuman like I thought I was, all this sort of stuff. So I've definitely slowed down. Does that make me a better rider? No, I think for me, a good rider is all about observation and bike control. And if you've got for you know, people like yourself, people that have got trials experience, off-road experience, already you're about a ladder above your normal road rider anyway.
If, for example, like you were saying about those two things there, so observation, bike control. If, for example, you have X amount of bike control where you don't even think about it and it goes to the back of your head and you can ride a bike in your sleep, then it allows you to focus more on the road. And, you know, like you say, on your road positioning, on looking at what's ahead, you know, whereas if you're not comfortable, you know, changing gear or rev matching or, you know, kind of this, that you're trying to learn, you know.
You're thinking about other things, aren't you?
You're thinking about other things, you know, and I kind of hop on a bike and I don't even think about riding the bike. I'm thinking about who's trying to kill me, you know, kind of thing. So, yeah, it's one of those really. So there's two different ways of slicing that. I think in terms of rider skill, we're both probably quite, you know, I would say we're both probably quite advanced in terms of rider skill.
I struggle to wheelie, mate. I can't back it in. And I did a wheelie school a couple of weeks ago, Next Level Wheelie School. Shout out to them. And it's just getting the confidence. I'm just getting the confidence to get the front up and not shit myself when the front comes up, you know. And it's like, keep that power on and keep it going. I'm not past that level yet.
It's having the trust in yourself and trusting yourself not to hurt yourself, you know. But yeah, like you say, I mean, it's interesting really because all of my friends went through that kind of quick superbike phase, and I never really did it. I was on the supermoto, putting my knee down and learning to get my knee down on roundabouts, kind of thing, you know. And I never really did that quick thing, and I still don't. And I don't really want to go and do 180 mile an hour everywhere. I'm quite comfortable just kind of bobbing along, and I'd rather be on one wheel, you know, if I can do, you know, most of the time. And I've only just managed to build a bobber that will do that, which is my bobber, you know, because I absolutely cannot get them to do it, and my one will. So that's fun and that's interesting. Trying to learn how to balance that thing. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. My sort of not expectations. What I find fun on a bike has changed. It used to be fun, you know. I always had Gixxer 1000s, and I loved the speed. You know, max the thing out whenever you possibly can, as fast as you can, and I loved that. But now, I mean, I ride a tractor now. I've got a GS out in the garage. You know what I mean? And I've found that I don't really like the inline fours anymore. I like your triples and your V4s, your twins. Grunt, usable grunt on the road. That's what I tell you what, though, there's something nice about a heated seat and cruise control and no wind buffeting, though, isn't it? I mean, I think I'm way old before my time. I should be hunched over a Gixxer 1000. Yeah, I'd rather be on a Tiger 900, you know, just kind of with a cruise control and then,
kind of chilling, and I actually rode a C90 for a year when I was 17 as well, and that was my everyday bike, and I had just as much fun on that as I would with anything else. I used to take it into the most inappropriate locations. It had knobbly tyres on. I built a bash plate for it. I did loads much. So I had a 3D printed cup holder on it for my coffee in the morning on the way to college. So yeah, it's fantastic. So it's interesting. Whereas all my friends were trying to ride quick bikes, I was like, I quite like my C90.
Definitely. So, I mean, I've started riding the little bikes, getting the wee bikes to review, like 125cc's. What else? I had a 380cc bike. And I was amazed at how much fun, like I'm 20 stone, 6'3", 20 stone. And I had so much fun sat on a 125cc, wringing its neck everywhere you went.
Because you wring its neck off and you pile it into a roundabout so fast and you expect, and it will come out the other end, you know what I mean? No matter how fast you go into it. But, whereas on a Jix 1000, you're coming up to around about 160 mile an hour going, should I brake? No, am I right here? Am I going to die? Kind of thing. So whereas you can wring that thing's neck, tuck it in, get around. You know what I mean? If you've got two of you racing and you're at the same sort of speed, and if someone gets a gear change wrong or messes up their line, that's it. You're ahead. So you can't mask your lack of inability to ride with power on a small bike. So you just got to know how to ride it.
If you ever find that you have, and not that I think you ever will, but if you ever find yourself with like a spare half hour or so, if you go onto my channel, TeapotOne, there's a playlist there called The Big Little Adventure, and it's where me and two other YouTube bloggers, a guy called Mr. Fish, official Mr. Fish, and another guy, Richie Vida, the three of us, those two got on Honda Cubs, and I'm on a Sinis Apache 125, and we went up round the Peak District, off-roading up in the Peak District, and then me and Fish went to Wales. We had such a crack on it. It was a great day.
They're so much fun. They're brilliant.
Beautiful. Would you ever do, well, I suppose Triumph don't do them, do they? I was going to say, would you ever do a small CC custom, but then Triumph don't do it?
Triumph don't do anything. They don't offer anything to the public like that as of yet. It's whether they will put the effort in to develop something like that with kind of petrol and internal combustion being phased out, I'm not sure. I think they will offer a smaller capacity electric bike potentially. Obviously they're working on the TE1, which I can't wait to get my hands on, and I'm begging the factory to let me make an electric bobber. All I need is a battery and an engine, and we'll be away. So that'll be a lot of fun, I'm sure. But whether they'll do that or not, I don't know. I might have to go and try and raid their parts bin late at night or something like that.
I thought that when I've done quite a bit on electric now, and I had the Harley live wire for a review.
Strange I remember to ride, but
I loved it. It felt different. Harleys always do feel different, don't they? But this was an electric bike that felt different to other electric bikes. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if like the custom bike market that is associated with Harley, will that migrate? Will Harley become the custom electric bike brand?
Harley is an interesting one. I think Harley as a motorcycle should have died a tragic death years and years and years ago. I think what they offer, but it's a Harley though, isn't it? It's a Harley. They're in pop culture. They're tied in with so much stuff. They're iconic. It's just a Harley. You chat to a girl in a bath. You're not about to tell her you ride a Kawasaki. Are you? You're gonna go, I ride a Harley, and she'll know what it is. Do you know what I mean? And it's one of them. So yes, they've only got that, and I think if they're not careful, I think they'll sink. So I think
it's interesting times for them, isn't it? Very interesting times at the moment.
Yeah, I think that their branding is good, but it'll only carry them so far. Because as a young generation, for example, my generation come in, and they're not being taught about Harley, or Harley aren't as relevant, it will die off with an older generation. Which will be a shame because it's over 100 years of history. And then it will kind of die out. It'd be interesting to see them come back with something, but the way I look at them is not fondly. But I have friends who do, you know. But you know, it's just as a motorcycle, I think they're very heavy, underpowered, and clunky kind of machines that aren't very well engineered, you know. But
absolutely, I didn't get it. I didn't get Harley until I rode one, and it was just like, you know, I've said it in my vids, like, I know they're not the best bikes out there, they're not the most powerful, they're not the best handling, but there's something different about them. There's just that, it's the whole brand, as you said, the whole brand, the whole corporate ID, the social side of it. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, but the live one was an interesting one. I hopped on it actually. I was at Joe Wicks got led one for a few weeks, and I was like, oh, let's have a spin. I'm gonna go yet. And I hopped on. I remember riding it out of his front garden, and I kind of just, because I'm quite a confident rider, I'll usually just kind of jump on something and try and put it on one wheel as soon as possible. You know, I'll come out and I'll be like, right, okay, let's go. And I kind of came out of his driveway and I kind of just got on the power expecting and it was
bang
sideways. I was like, oh, like a foot out, you know. I was like, oh, right, okay. I was like, this is interesting, you know. Interesting one, accelerating and hearing nothing but wind noise and a kind of a funny little whir. Your kind of perception of how fast you're going is a bit warped, I found anyway, because I was like, right, what's going on here? You know, there's no gears. It's just kind of like wash, you know. That instant throttle response is fantastic, you know, and it really was good. But, you know, I don't think they're there yet. The battery technology isn't there. You know, for real range anxiety is this huge thing for a lot of people with electric bikes and stuff like that. You know, but you know, I mean, realistically, I don't do silly miles. You know, I probably ride 5,000 miles a year, if that. You know, I really don't. I spend my hands, you know, inside motorcycles, not on top of them, right? So you know, it's an interesting one. I can't wait to get on a Triumph TE1. That's going to be a very interesting machine, and I personally think it's a lot better looking than the Harley as well. So
yeah. I hope the actual bike ends up looking the way their sort of prototype that they're publishing looks like.
Yeah, we all know that it differs a little bit, but I think they did quite well with the Trident when they brought that out. I was really quite impressed with how neat of a package that bike is. I don't think we'll ever do one. We might offer some parts for one, but I think it's a different market, you know. It's that kind of
sort of entry level, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's one of those.
Cool. Right, next one, Pete English. Now, Pete has a little bit of a reputation for his questions, so let's see what he's got in store for us. Hi, guys. Hope you're both fitting well. Question. Us blokes are constantly sending each other dodgy stuff over WhatsApp and Messenger. Where is this going? What would you do if one of those messages contained a compromising video of your next door neighbour? Interesting. Is this something you want to tell us, Pete?
Yeah. Of my neighbour. Oh, you know what? There's an interesting one here because I still live at home. So going back to what I was saying right at the start about me starting a business and wanting to buy a house, I've got myself into a position and I bought my first house last Wednesday. So my very first house. So I thank you. I don't have any neighbours yet in the new place, but I still live at home with my mum. Bless her. So my neighbours are I absolutely sincerely hope I never receive compromised photos of either of those because I think I will be violently ill very quickly. I don't know. I mean, if I had very wealthy neighbours, there would probably be some sort of negotiation there to be had.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think there probably would be like, look what I've got. You know, see that delete button. That costs £10,000. That does, you know. You know, I don't know. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I sincerely hope I never receive compromising photos of them. But yeah, no, I think it would be an instant. Oh, that's kinky. I'll delete that. You know,
delete. Yeah, of course. Save.
Delete. See you later. God, good question though.
Oh, blimey, yeah. He's given us some peaches, has Pete, over the days. Next one, Ravenshead Rider. To Jody, what bike that you've designed and built are you most proud of to date? You know,
that's an interesting one because Triumph, I'm going to like my answer. There's three poignant bikes in my building career. And if I was going to go and say, right, I'm the most proud of this one, not because of what, you know, like compared to my standards now, it's probably not as good as it could be. But it was the Panigale 1299 that I built. And I'm most proud of that bike. It's the most poignant one for me because it really, really put me on the map. And what I managed to do with a write-off bike, you know, I paid £7,500 for it, which was so much money for me back then. It was basically everything I had, and I built on a shoestring budget. And as we know, a Panigale 1299 isn't the most simple of bikes to design or to work on, you know, or to replace when it's broken. So I bought it as a write-off, complete front-end damage. It had about 1,700 miles on it, 17 reg bike, and I built that in my old workshop. I remember putting it apart and going, Panigales don't have a frame, do they? It's like, what can I chop and weld on this?
What'd you do?
It was like, you can't chop and weld anything on it. And I was like, right, well,
oops.
I'm so far in a hole now that I just have to engineer my way out of it. And I did, you know, and I, again, credit cards, borrowing, you know, loans, you know, to get it done. And I remember 3D scanning the rear subframe, and I'd never done that before. CAD designing the rear, I'd never done that before. I put my very first titanium exhaust, and it literally took me 2 weeks to build the exhaust because titanium, I'd never welded it before, and I did it in pie cut as well. And it was 1 millimeter thick and 70 millimeter pipe. Now, if you try and cut a 1 millimeter thick piece of piece of titanium, in a little pie cut slither like that, it deforms. So I had to 3D print a special set of jaws to hold it. And I bought a special saw. The saw was like £400. And again, I had to buy the saw. I couldn't afford the fucking saw to cut it up. We make it, you know. And I had to buy a 3D printer and all these things, you know, it put my back against the wall to build it. And it was so difficult to build. And I had no choice. I was so far, because no one else knew how to do it. You know what I mean? No one else has done it. Anyway, I built it and I got it done just in time for the bike shed. And there was a very poignant moment at the bike shed for me, and I rolled it in. There's a few poignant moments on the bike shed there, because I rolled it into the bike shed, and there's a guy walked up to me, and his name's Winston Ye. He owns a company called Rough Crafts. He builds custom bikes. He builds custom Harleys to a very, very high standard. And at the time, he was a bit of a like an inspiration for me, I guess you could say. You know, I was kind of looking at him like, I want to be like you, kind of thing. And I rolled it in, and he went, "Is that a 1299 Panigale?" I was like, "Yes." He was like, "Does it run?" And I was like, "Yeah." Why? He was like, "Where have you put everything?" And I was like, "Right, okay, so this is an interesting one." So when I pulled the Panigale apart, you pull all the fairings off. You pull the fairing, the side fairing off the Panigale 1299. It's like a bird's nest of wiring. It's just like an incredible lattice of plugs and sensors and wires and things that all need to be somewhere. And I actually used the original wiring loom on that. I was quoted by a very, very reputable Ducati / sort of superbike builder. I won't say no names, but they kind of priced me out of it. And I thought, "You bastards." I said, "You know, I'm going to do this myself." So I did. And, you know, I kind of chopped and hacked up the loom myself and got it. And and I did it, you know, and I built it, and it went to the bike shed show, and he walked up to me, and Winston walked up to me and went, "Does it run?" And I went, "Yeah, it does. Watch this." I started it up right there and then, you know, and it was like, wow, you know, he was gobsmacked. And I was like, whoa, I've surprised myself here, and I built this thing. Because when you pull all that wiring off, there's this beautiful engine that nobody ever gets to see. And it's kind of like an inside out kind of webbing and kind of castings. It's all so nice and so pretty. And I was like, right, well, if I could pull this bike apart as much as possible, put as little back on it as possible, make it look good, then, you know, I would have done what I set out to do. And the second most poignant moment at the bike shed show was when I was steaming drunk, because the guy that I sold it to kept handing me beers, and that was the first night he'd seen it. And I was steaming drunk, and someone very high up in Ducati UK kind of wandered over, and I didn't know who he was at the time, and he started chatting to me, and I was swaying at this point. This was on the VIP night on Friday. I was swaying, and he was asking me all about the bike, and he was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm so and so. I'm X person at Ducati. I absolutely love your bike, and I want to fly you out to Bologna to the factory to meet the design directors." And I was like, "All right, then I'm in." And yeah, so that was it. I had a 3-day trip courtesy of Ducati to Bologna. And I took a couple of friends, and there was lots of cheese and wine and parma ham that was consumed, and lots of motorcycles that were spoken about. Unfortunately, the Ducati thing never really came to fruition. So that was a very interesting thing, because I actually genuinely came to a fork in the road. And no, I've never spoken about this before to anyone other than my very close friends and people that know me. And not even these boys know about this because I've never even thought to bring it up. But I came to a fork in the road, and this fork was Ducati and this fork was Triumph. And I was like, do I go with Ducati because, you know, they're offering me X, or do I go with Triumph and stick it out and see if I can build a better relationship with them? And they kind of, the Ducati, the guys are lovely there. You know, they were very accommodating, but I actually chose to go down the British route, the Triumph route. I thought they fitted me better. I thought they fitted Thornton 100 and the brand better. So I was like, right, I'm going to go down the Triumph route. So that was an interesting fork in the road that I came to around sort of 2 and a bit years ago. And I was like, right, what am I going to do here? And I kind of pointed down Triumph route, and they kind of started to take notice of me. And now I guess I'm kind of like the face of their custom motorcycle scene. You know, we held the Bonneville build off. I kind of introduced the new Bonnevilles to those guys. And we're doing a photo shoot with them again to launch a load of new clothing with them. And you know, it's been a great relationship that's kind of grown really as we've grown as a brand really, and yeah, it works very well. So there you go. That's something for your followers that nobody else in the world knows. Exclusive.
So let's say money no object. Somebody with a blank check comes to you and goes, "I want a brand new bike, right? Not a Triumph. I want this bike." Right. Would you take that project on to fully customize that other manufacturer, or would you are you purely Triumph now and nothing else?
You know what, people say that in a hypothetical way, but I have customers that come to me and say that.
I bet there's money in bikes, as you know.
They come and they do say that. So do I take that project on? I already know what that project is. Because I wanted to do it myself, and it's a Superleggera Panigale V4, and I actually inquired about one when they came out, and they were way too much money. Yes, would I take it on? You know, I wouldn't want to upset Triumph. If I did take it on, I would take it on, but it wouldn't be public like it would be like I do with all of my other builds. So what I don't really want to be doing is me and Triumph have no official contract. We have no official anything. We have nothing like that. But I am quite loyal. They're good to me and I'm good to them. You know, I think it works quite well. But yes. It would probably be if someone came and said, "Look, Jody, build me a crazy bike." I'll be like, "Right, let's buy a Panigale Superleggera V4. Let's laser sinter, 3D printed metal, the subframe. Let's laser sinter and 3D print and use generative design to create the swing arm." And do you know why I'm saying this? Is because I've actually done all of this and I've created an entire proposal for a customer. And we put the whole thing together, and it never actually went anywhere because I was creating disgusting numbers, like disgusting numbers. But for example, when you spend £30,000 to develop and manufacture a swing arm, you know, it's about to make anyone kind of a little bit queasy, you know. But for example, you know, the amount of design hours, the amount of stress and strain testing that needs to go into that, any approvals it needs to go through to get it registered, you know, it's so much involved. And then actually laser sintering something out of titanium, you know, is you got to find someone with a £1 million machine, or actually more than £1 million machine. You know, it would probably be about, you're looking at £2 or £3 million just for the machine to make it. You know, and whoever is kind of shopping out that work, they need to make their money back, and it's going to cost. You know. And yes, I will do it. Yes, we have the skills. Will I know exactly what I'm doing straight away? No, I'll probably wing it. But I will guarantee you that I'll find you a solution, and we'll get there in the end. You know, so.
Where does your creative juices, your creative flair come from? Because you've obviously got the vision in your head. You can picture what you want to do with stuff. Yeah. Where does that come from?
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. You know, sometimes I just look at something and go, "We're doing that. That is what that bike wants, and if we're anything other than that, then it's wrong." Sometimes I will really have to look at something and it will take. Sometimes it will take even us going, "Yeah, I think that's what I want. We'll make it, design it, get it on the bike," and it'll be like, "Nah, no, that's not quite right." Yeah. You know. So when am I creative? I don't know. And realistically, they're not always there. You know, like sometimes I do hit a creative kind of block, and I have done for weeks. You know, and I'm kind of like, well, can I even build bikes anymore? You know, where's this coming from? And, you know, it's not all kind of crazy ideas. And, you know, it sometimes, but the thing is, it's not just me anymore. It's a design committee, you know, of Alex. And, you know, Alex didn't know anything about motorcycle design. None of those boys even ride motorcycles, you know, and Alex looks at it from a product design kind of point of view. You kind of all look at it from a marketing point of view, and we'll just see if I can make it look full on camera kind of thing, you know. So I'll toss ideas around and we'll kind of chuck ideas about, and we'll do a mind map, we'll do this, that, and the other, and sketch things out on the iPad and 3D scan it and see what it looks like. But yeah, I guess I think with the motorcycles, you know, you start from your hard facts. You know, so I will start with, right, I've got to create this, for example, chain guard or this back end, and it absolutely cannot mount from anywhere other than these four holes or 2 holes or 1 hole, you know. So that's your starting point, you know, because if you can't mount it from anything else other than that, you've got to start from that. You've got to integrate it and try to make it flow and make it look like it right. So the creative juices don't always flow. Sometimes I really do get kind of like a writer's block or a builder's block, you know. But, you know, when they do start flowing, you know, I'll run around like a madman. These boys can't keep up, you know. It's just that I'm hyper and I will obsess over it, and I will be here at 3-4 o'clock in the morning.
I believe you, mate. I believe you.
I'm obsessed with it, you know. I just get obsessed with it, and you know, I'm probably a bit OCD and ADHD. I've never been diagnosed, but you know, it's probably a bit of that there, you know. So yeah, it's one of them.
Awesome. Because I remember watching, well, today I watched a vid that was on, it was on how you designed your paddock stand, and I was like, how can you make a paddock stand look sexy? Do you know what I mean? And you did. You did.
That's an interesting one.
I don't even own a Triumph, and I was like, that's a sexy looking paddock stand.
Yeah, paddock stand was an interesting one because we needed an option to give to customers, and I could make a paddock stand that would cost £5,000, you know, quite comfortably, you know, and I will, and I'll put ceramic bearings in it, and I will put nice little dampened spring systems in that when it pops down, it makes a lovely little noise, and you know, well, that was an interesting one. So it was the very first video that Stevie ever made for us, actually, and it was something that I wanted to create that didn't cost the absolute earth, you know, that so people that want to put it down for their bobber, that put them on a nice little mat in their garage, you know, I want them to have something nice, but I don't want them to be spending 500 quid, you know, and it needs to be in line with what the market is. And it was a difficult one because I actually designed it on the iPad, we just we laser cut it, you know, and it's 3 laser cut plates, and I weld them together, you know, and then we use wheels off like a little kid's scooter because you get real nice CNC wheels and nice bearings and that, and then put some Pro Bolt, nice little titanium bolts in it, and yeah, it's it kind of flows from that really. But I wanted the logo in there. I wanted something that was flowing with the lines, and yeah, it's a lovely little product. I must admit, you know, and we can make them for a realistic price point, and we can sell them for a realistic price point, which is not always agreed upon. But you know, it's one of them really.
It was interesting watching the Q&A vid with, is it Alex?
Yes,
is Alex? Yeah, the Q&A vid you did then, and you were talking about the use of how you guys use technology, because obviously you're all young lads that are in there. You incorporate technology into, it seems, all manner of the business, like the stock checking,
stock control. Everything's done off our iPhones. I'll go and scan something, bosh, comes off stock, you know, it goes out scanned, just everything's right there. And that's an interesting one because bike builders before me are generally, not to kind of generalize, but, you know, they're older guys, you know, that have retired, are doing it for a bit of fun, or, you know, they've made their money and they're doing it, you know, for a bit of fun, or, you know, they're trying to do it, or they did it, you know, they started when they were my age 20, 30 years ago, but the world is a very different place now, and it's moving at a million miles an hour, and we're relevant right now. Doesn't mean that we're going to be relevant in 5 years. You know, I think we're riding a wave, and I think it's working really well. But we have got to be so on it. You know, with TikTok, I don't like TikTok. You know, I don't have a TikTok account, and I don't watch IGTVs, and I don't watch Reels, and you know, I feel like a dinosaur compared to these boys. You know, and you know, Alex is 22. You know, and I feel like a dinosaur compared to him because 3 years now. Is such a difference, you know, in terms of, you know, he's into his TikTok, he's into his Reels, he's into his this, that, and the other. And, you know, I think it'll be so important for us to remain relevant as a company as we continue to grow. And I will just kind of take a step back, because I bring the knowledge in terms of making something safe, designing something properly, building a motorcycle. You know, people create lovely looking motorcycles. You create these lovely looking motorcycles on Instagram, and you see them in real life, and the actual execution of it is diabolical. You know, there's lots of sort of tips and tricks that kind of make a bike nice. You know, and it's well finished. So but you know, we incorporate everything, technology into everything, and it's great. It makes things easy. Why not let a computer do the work? You know, I don't have to sit there and cut my hands open and weld something for 50 hours. If we can scan it with an iPhone, create it in a CAD design, and make something 10 times better, 10 times sexier, more lightweight, better materials, and repeatable. We can repeatedly make something nice, which isn't always done by hand, you know, and I really appreciate those, you know, Max Hazan, you know, people like the Bolex, Callum, you know, they're different builders to me. They're doing things by hand, but we're just taking a different angle, and we're bringing a young kind of like a viewpoint from it, and a standpoint of just incorporating any kind of technology we can get hands on or afford, because it's wildly expensive.
Yeah, it struck me that you've already built a business that's scalable, so that, you know, you can take your sort of your practices, your working practices that you adopt now, and your stock taking and everything like that, and you can scale it with that technology to fit whatever the demand becomes. Yeah,
whatever the demand becomes. Yeah, like I say, it is scalable, and we are, as of nobody knows this yet either, we're actually working on a dealership campaign. So we are going to have Thornton 100 dealers in Canada, North America, South America, Philippines, Thailand, and Australia to start with. And the problem is that we get emails and emails and emails, 10, 15 emails a day, all over the world going, I am in X place, can you build me a bike and send it to me? And I can't cost effectively do that. But what I can do is fly out to a nominated dealer, show them how to build a bike, for example, a bobber, show them what I expect and the standards that I expect, and make sure that, and then do regular audits of them to ensure that they're upkeeping a standard. Then what I can do is I can go to Mr. Customer and say, hello, Mr. Customer, no, I can't build you one, but so-and-so motorcycles can build you one. They're an authorized dealer. I've personally been there and signed it off. And we're going to send them all the bits for your bike, and they're going to put it together for you. And that is how we scale the business in terms of the bike side. But the business is scalable in terms of the clothing, the branding, you know, and the parts. So, you know, I want Thornton 100 to be the next Belstaff. I want Thornton 100 to be the next Barber. I think we can do that. I think the brand can carry it. I think Thornton 100 can carry anything kind of luxury. I think if we wanted to go into watches, we could probably do watches. We could probably do footwear. We could probably do anything, really. I think the Thornton brand can hold it. You know,
I love
that, man.
Get into it, I love that vision. I love it. Good on you.
Yeah.
Good on you.
A bit of an entrepreneurial kind of aspect to it as well. You know, a lot of people do build bikes for the love of it. And yeah, I love it. I love building motorcycles. But at the same time, I've got to make money. I've got to keep these lights on. I've got to pay for all of these boys' cars, finance, all of their rent, everything. And yeah, there's a lot going on. I've got a house to pay for now, you know, so that's an interesting one.
Do you ever get the time to actually sit and think, 4 years ago, I was in a fucking shipping container?
Let me see if I can flip this round. Right. This is me 4 years ago. So that is the shipping container. That is a Ducati 900 SS, and that is a filing cabinet that I stole. You have to excuse my hands. I haven't even washed them because I was building stuff. That is a stainless steel workbench, and that came out of my mum's school when they redid the kitchen. This was a thing that I bodged up, and I didn't even have a toolbox. There's a £100 Halford toolkit there. And there was no door on it actually for at least 3 months, and I have a big scar actually on my thumb. You see that scar there? I built that. I did that. I nearly cut my thumb off. Basically building the door for it. So, and underneath here it says shed mentality. So, what I said to the boys is an interesting one, because over here we have a photo of helicopters and Ferraris and all sorts of lovely toys and stuff like that. And what I said to the boys is, right, guys, I know it. The problem is they haven't been here from the start. I've been here from the start. And I know I get wrapped up in it as well. And I said to those boys, so underneath that, it said shed mentality. I said, guys, when I left Nifty Lift, And I was there with nothing, minus money. I had the bank knocking on my door saying, pay back our loans, do this and that. I was so wildly motivated to make it work. And that mentality that I had, that I was in the shed, that shed mentality, you have to make this work, otherwise you are done, you are dead. You might as well go and crawl over a hole and die. Now, what might be easy for these boys to get wrapped up in is the celebrities that we sell to. The wildly wealthy millionaires and billionaires that we go to their houses, and there's Porsches and Ferraris and Lambos all knocking about, and Ferraris out the front because customers have turned up in it, and then we get helicopter rides. We go out for nice dinners with clients and this and the other. And I think it might be easy for them guys, and I'm probably guilty of it. Sitting back and getting a little bit comfortable, going, do you know what, this is pretty cushy and this is pretty nice. We might have made it. Whereas I sit back and go, Joe, boys, I'm in the same mentality right now. Even though we don't have the world, but we've got a very, very nice platform around us. And if we ever feel like we're getting comfortable, if you ever feel like you can ever take your foot off the gas pedal there, that is the wrong mentality. You're in the wrong place, and you need to switch up, because we are going, gunning, and we absolutely have to do more. We absolutely have to be better. We absolutely have to give the customer a better experience, a better product. And we can do it. We're absolutely capable of it. The only thing that I struggle with at the moment is the manpower, because we've got the culture, we've got the mentality, and we've got the drive and the vision to be able to do it. So, guys, if we can maintain that shed mentality that I had 4 years ago, and we can keep growing at this exponential rate that we're growing at, we'll absolutely take over the world. And I said to these boys, if you're here with me, you're here from the start, you stick with me, I'll take you on the ride with it. We'll all be driving around in Ferraris and Porsches and Lambos and helicopters.
Dude, I'm pumped just listening to this.
Yeah,
let's do it.
If we can do it, then guys, come on the journey with me. And we're trying to take the followers on the journey with me as well. So if what's interesting actually, there's another custom bike builder. And I'm not going to name any names. And what they've done is they've created themselves a very kind of posh, exclusive kind of image. And they're not in the UK, they're not UK based. They're creating a very posh, exclusive image. They sell similar sorts of things that we do, new bikes, blah, blah, blah. And what they've done on their Instagram is, if you look at the amount of posts they've got about 50 to 100 posts. It's very, very, very curated. You go onto my Instagram and I think there's about 400 posts now. And you scroll down and you see the quality of the bikes go down. You see the money go down. And then you scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll see me at the bottom of that Instagram in that shed with zero experience doing that. And that is part of the legacy. So when I'm saying about I'm taking the guys on the journey, that journey is there for everyone to see. And the journey is there for our followers to get involved with. And I want to take everyone on the journey with me, because, why not? I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the followers following, if it wasn't for the customers coming, if it wasn't for the guys watching this, then we wouldn't be here, so we absolutely have to give back. And I want to take everyone on that journey with me and with the boys. Hopefully they'll stick around and they won't piss them off for me too hard on them, because I can be quite hard on them. But, it's put up there. So I'm like that strict parent that kind of thinks them, they have complete creative free reign. But when it comes to deadline time, or when it comes to getting the customer something being right, then it absolutely has to be.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got your expectations there as to they're representing your brand, aren't they? So
absolutely,
they have to reach that level. It's interesting you said that about Instagram, because that's exactly what it's exactly what I do when if I have a guest coming on here, then I'll go onto their social media and have a look, and I always scroll through, and I like to see how. You can see how most people, how they develop. And it struck me when I looked at yours. It was just like, Jesus, it literally is one bloke in a shed, and now look where he is. Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, and it's a weird one, because I always feel kind of awkward. For example, that kind of sentence that you just said there, now look where we are. And I feel very, very, very grateful for everything that we have and everything around us. But I just always kind of look at that and go, watch where we're going. Look at where we're going, and
great
watch
attitude.
where we go, watch what's coming, because it's more and it's better. And we are investing disgusting amounts of money in the company. It makes me feel sick when I look at what goes in and what goes out. it's you know, and like for example, we're working with a big display company. So for example, you walk down Oxford Street and you will see massive display screens, huge kind of like big display screens in shops and interactive stuff and interactive CAD. And we're working on that at the moment, and we're going to work with this company, and they're going to come in and people are going to be able to work with a big, huge life-size style TV, and we'll be able to sit there and create their bike on the CAD right there, and I'm spinning it around, and we'll create. And then what we'll be able to do is take them into the sales suite, stick some VR goggles on them, and they'll be able to walk around their bike and look at it and listen to it. So we'll have soundtracks, and we'll be able to press the button. We'll have pre-recorded everything. We have so much going on, and nobody is investing like that, absolutely whatsoever. And I don't want to give away too many secrets, but yeah, nobody. It's just the investment, you know. I know probably a lot of people will kind of get to a point and go, do you know what? I'll buy my house, I'll buy my Porsche, and that's kind of cool. And I can kind of let this simmer now, but absolutely not. I'm on my way to create the biggest motorcycle brand, and you know, hopefully I'll look back at this in 10 years and we will be there, you know. So
I'm pumped for you. Awesome.
Exciting.
I was just having a quick look at the next question. I think we've pretty much answered it. It's from Rob Bignell. Hi, question for Jody. Which manufacturer would you like to go into partnership with to build a limited edition bike for? Well, we kind of covered that. You are in with Triumph.
Covered that one. We covered that one. We already know who that's going to be.
Next one, Brian McManus. Hi to all. A question to Jody. What led you to doing what you do, i.e. your background and skills? I love what you guys come up with. I think we've kind of covered that.
Kind of covered that, yeah. We kind of covered that question, yeah, with the apprenticeship and getting forced out and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we pretty much covered that one.
Got you. Question 2, what would be your dream bike to modify? Again, yeah,
Superleggera, one with the Superleggera, yeah.
He says Bruce has a little weary GSXR, but I reckon he won't let you near the beast. Do you know my story? Do you know the story about my GSXR?
No, I don't know.
The whole reason I'm here is because I did it's about an hour and 10 minutes, folks. It's taken me to mention this. People lay bets as to how long it'll take in each podcast before I talk about my trip. I rode a GSXR 1000 around the world back in 2012 to 2014.
I remember seeing it.
So that's where the whole TeapotOne came from, and it's sort of fast forward, and now we're here. And everyone keeps asking me, what am I doing with the bike? Because it just sits in my garage, you know. And initially I wasn't going to do anything, and now I'm thinking I'd quite like to get her back on the roads, but I don't want to lose, you know, the battle scars and the fairings.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. That is a trophy that should be preserved. You know, every single scratch, every single twisted together wire with a bit of gaffer tape around it. You know, and I've got a few stories like that. You know, my XR 600 that I rode, we did these long trips around. I did 3 of them around Europe, and you know, there's nothing like adversity to create an adventure. For example, I was riding it down the road, and we were in northern Italy somewhere, and I was riding it down the road, and basically what I'd done is I've made my own wiring loom for it, and a battery that sat in basically a tool bag on the back of the mudguard. I was riding it down the road. My dad was kind of right up next to him, was kind of hitting me. He's like, slow down. I was like, what's going on? And I looked behind me, and it was smoking. The battery was like on fire, like smoking. I was like, oh God, we're in the middle of nowhere. What's going on? So we kind of stopped, and the battery, what happened is the regulator rectifier had failed, and it was basically charging this thing at silly voltage, and it had swelled up, heated up, and it was basically like a big ball of battery. And I was like, ooh, okay then. So took the battery off, quickly discarded of it on the side of the road there, and left that for someone else to worry about, because I couldn't carry it because it was on fire, you know. So I was like, right, I just have to leave that there. Bump started the bike, rode to a Honda dealer in the middle of a town somewhere, and they were like, look, we ain't got anything for you, you know. And it was like, right, okay, we've got a trans-out regulator, rectifier, you know. And I was like, that will do. Again, splice the wires, twist it all together, you know, bit of cable tie, you know, bit of duct tape, you know, and it's great, you know. And again, another story like that. You know, Mount Jaffro, the highest navigable off-road pass in Europe, right? And it's kind of don't quote me where it is. It's like Switzerland, kind of Italian Alps kind of area. And we rode to the top of this place, and it's like 5 miles up. And we rode all the way to the top, and me and my dad were taking the photos, and the sun was going down, and blah. And we got to the top of this hill, and I was on my XR, and he was on an XL 600 as well, and it wouldn't start. My bike would not start, and I was like, nightmare. We're quite high. I think, don't quote me on this, about 3,800 meters or feet. I don't know. Jeez. One of those will probably kill me. I don't know. I don't know. It wouldn't start, and I could not for the life of me bump start it because we were so high at the air sin. I didn't jet it to do that kind of thing. And anyway, we managed to I kind of coasted it down for about a mile or so, and I managed to get it going, and I rode it all the way back down to the campsite that we were in. Me and my dad were just in a tent, and we were proper roughing it, just tents, And there was a bunch of blokes there as well next door to the tent, and they're on GSs, they're on new GSs. And I was like, right, okay. So I basically figured out, I was like, right, this is a start motor. And what me and my dad had done like a month or so before this trip was we'd ridden through a big, deep ford. And what it had done is filled my starter motor up with water. So what I did was I basically took my starter motor out, and there's the 2 screws, the kind of long screws that hold it together, and I kind of pulled it apart and pulled out all this river water that was still left in it from a month or so ago. And I was like, And then what came out with it as well is, if you're familiar with how an electric motor works, you have a winding of coils in the middle on the Hondas. Right. You have like a winding of like a copper wire, and then you have the casing, which has all these permanent magnets that are meant to be stuck to it, and they're bonded to the casing, and that's what you put power through it, and it spins. But what happened is, the water had basically dissolved all of the bonding that was sticking all of this glue to this outer casing, and I basically just poured out all of the internals of the starter motor. And we're in the middle of nowhere as well. And I remember sitting there with wet wipes, right? And these German guys come over with their GSs, and they were like, "You're never going to get it started." I was like wiping out the case with wet wipes, like baby wipes. And they were like, "You're never going to get that started." And they went off to dinner. There was a restaurant down the road. And what I'd done is I basically wiped it all down with the wet wipes and I used super glue and an activating thing, and I glued all of the magnets or a background onto the thing, reassembled it or cleaned everything up, put it all back together. I started it, and I turned up to the restaurant an hour or so later, and they just burst out laughing. They shook my hand, and they bought the beers for the rest of the night, and they were like, "Oh, good on them, good on them, fair play." I was like, adversity leads to adventure. That's it. And good stories, it's good stories, So honestly, I'll never forget that.
The amount of people that, and I know why, because I was the same. You worry when you plan a big trip. You're always worried. What if this goes wrong? What if that happens? What if this happens? Yeah. But as you just pointed out, what you learn is that's the whole point of going on a big adventure. Matter. That's when the fun starts.
Honestly, my dad got a puncture, and I can't tell you the details on the story too much, but he was in Russia somewhere, and he got a puncture in the middle of nowhere. Just absolutely no way, And then these people passing by, picked him up, and they took him for like 20 miles, got him a new inner tube, got him a tyre, bought him back. You meet the nicest, and they stayed there for the night. You know what I mean? You meet the nicest people. And, it doesn't matter if it goes wrong, because if it goes wrong, it leads to adversity, and it leads to an adventure, and that's what makes it fun. And if it was easy, it would be boring, and everyone would be doing it, which is why I'm all about, let's make it interesting,
Beautiful. Mate, have you got time to, there's a couple of questions on Instagram. You got time for that?
Yeah, fantastic. Let's do it.
Beautiful. So thank you very much, folks, for leaving your questions on Patreon. We'll move across to Instagram, which is at TeapotOne Insta. And again, as I said, I'll leave Jody's social links down below. First question, Trisha, the Triumph Speed Triple. Bruce, loving these podcasts, buddy. I get to listen to these on my way to work, gearing me up for a good day working for the NHS. Well, thank you very much for the job you're doing there.
Thank you very much.
Question for you both. Styling on new bikes these days are usually well suited to the market the manufacturers are aiming for. This usually splits opinions right down the middle. Can you name one bike that you wouldn't change the looks of, and one you wish you could just change everything? Cheers.
Well, that's an interesting question. Do you know why that's an interesting question? Is because I'm really not involved in the motorcycle market, really. Like, I'm not really kind of, you get like the people, who are reviewing the bikes. They know a bike will speed past 100 miles an hour on the road, and they'll go, "Oh, that was a so-and-so."
Oh, yeah.
And I'll go, I don't know what that was. Like, that was a sports bike of some sort. I look at a bike, I look at the live wire and I go, oh, that headlight is really making me feel quite nauseous. And I look at most Harleys and I think that purely because it was the first one that popped into my head, live wire. I look at that and go, what are you trying to be? And I think this is going to be very briefly a very interesting topic. Why would you put a fuel tank on a motorcycle that is not requiring a fuel tank? Just to make it look like a motorcycle. Why are you doing that? Why? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Do you not think that's to try and almost placate the motorcycle market out there? Because we know what a bike
looks like. We know what a bike should look like, but realistically, what a bike needs to be now they're electric, it doesn't need to look like that. And I think if I was going to start again and design a motorcycle, I would probably, if I was doing an electric one, I'd probably not make it look like a motorcycle. Like, it would probably look like something else, and people go, "Oh, that's disgusting," But then again, like you say, 50% of people go, "That's disgusting. Why have you done that?" 50% of people go, "That's fantastic." And you never know, it might come cotton on. Then all of a sudden, fuel tanks. What's a fuel tank? That's old tech. What's a fuel tank? And it's an interesting thing.
Jody, design. Do a conceptual design. Go on,
design
please.
It. Do one. I think there should be a big old. Realistically, you're going to need something to grip with your knees. You're going to need something in between to make it feel and ride like a normal motorcycle. But whether it needs to look like that, I don't know. So a live wire, would be, that's disgusting. Why are you doing that? A pretty bike. What is a pretty bike straight out of the factory? And I try and get to hate me for this again, but I look at V4 Panigales and I go, oh, that's a very, very, very pretty bike. That is very nice looking. They're just sexy, aren't they? There's something about an Italian bike, an Italian women. They're the same, just
nightmare to live with, great fun to ride.
Oh God, exactly that. Yeah. So I look at a V4 Panigale and I'll go, straight out of the box. That's a very nice looking bike, and I will own one. I think that's a very pretty bike. And it's strange because it's not really what I'm into. I'm not really into going fast, and and I love my Triumphs and my Cruisers and that, but I really look at that bike and go, do you know what? You don't need to do much of that, for it to be a very pretty nice looking bike. So that's my two. Live wire, disgusting. Panigale, pretty nice.
What do you think of MV Augustas, styling wise, look wise?
Oh yeah, they're very kind of I mean, again, they're kind of going for that Italian kind of look. I think some of them can get a bit busy, too many angles kind of thing sometimes, and all the new stuff. I think they're I don't know. I'm not a massive fan, but again, realistically, if you put, I don't know, I think people try too hard sometimes, and I think you can overcomplicate something and over design something, but hey ho, it's one of the.
Got you. All received. Right, next one. York's F900 XR. How does I was interested in this. How does the handling characteristics change when you put a 180 section tyre on the front? They look cool, but does it ruin the bike?
It ruins the bike depending on what bike you put it on. If you put 180 tyre on your Ducati, on your Suzuki, I guarantee you would not want to ride it. However, you put a 180 section front tyre on a bobber with a very different motorcycle geometry, a very slack geometry, a very laid back and weight over the rear kind of geometry. All of a sudden, your front end is light anyway. And if you make some slight adjustments to your custom triple trees, which is what we do, and I can't go too far into any detail, tell people how we do it, but you can actually quicken up the steering, and you can actually make it handle pretty nice. Your weight's quite far back, you quicken up the steering, all of a sudden you've got something that handles very similar to a standard bike. The only thing that you will notice, for example, on a T120 where you weight it slightly further forward, there's a lot more counter steering involved, and it really highlights the fact that you are, for example, taking a right-hand turn and you're pushing with your right arm, and you are kind of pushing it out and kind of making it kind of tip in a bit more. So there is that. you know. But then again, the people that buy my bikes aren't trying to, you know, drag their knees around corners. You know,
they want people to see them, don't they?
Yeah. They just want to look cool when you turn up to the pub. And I guarantee you know, you ride one of my bikes through the centre of London, and you will get 100 photos taken of you. You get taxi drivers stopping you and fist buds from bus drivers out the windows because, you know, they just love it. You know, people love it. You park it up and people just go and look at it and go, wow, what is that? I've never seen anything like that. You are like so cool, you know, when you're riding it. And it, you know, doesn't matter what you look like. You can be the ugliest guy in the world, the fattest bloke in the world, but you ride one of the life 400s, you are going to get looked at and you're going to get photos taken of you, that's for sure.
Right, I'm going to have to remortgage. I have to put an order in. That's it. So what caused... Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. So what made you think I'm going to put the big tyre on the front? Was it purely an aesthetic thing, or you know, was there something else you were going for?
It's been done before. You know, Americans have done it. You know, putting the fat, wide, chunky tyres on, and I think you can overdo it. You know, I think you can. Like, what's the point? I was just like, you know what? Most of the stuff that I build, the idea came from me going, that would look cool if I did that, and then the kind of the initiation of it is, can I do it though? And then the way that it kind of moves along is me proving to myself that I can actually do it and make it a usable thing. So it's a, can I make it cool? You know, I think that would look cool kind of thing. Can I do it? You know, prove to myself I can do it by doing it. You know, that's kind of how that kind of came about. You know, so it was inspired by an American kind of thing, you know, big fat kind of chunkiness, and nobody had done it with a bottom before. You know, I've seen it done with Bonnevilles, and I thought, you know, well, I can do a better job than that. So it's one of them.
Awesome, mate. That's all the questions done. I have one little note that we've not covered yet. We touched on it, but I've got new workshop with a tick next to it. So looking at the future with the new workshop, I mean, this is a literally custom built from the ground up. Have you broke the ground yet? Have you put the foundations in yet?
The foundations went in this week. It's been a I'm not involved in that really. I'm not that sat there on the digger doing that, you know, kind of thing. But I'm kind of pointing, and we kind of decided, and we actually so the foundations have gone in, you know, all the pipes are there for toilets and sewage and the drainage and the blah, blah, blah. And the steel work is arriving in around 3 weeks' time. And that is when I'm going to be able to stand in it and go, that's a wall, that's a wall, that's a door kind of thing. Yeah. And it's interesting because I've actually only, as of a week and a bit ago, decided to extend it and go further with it because I have horrible fears of what happened when I came in here going, oh, this is big enough, I'll never outgrow this. And then I get in there and I go, wow, this is way too small, and I've spent all this money still, you know, and I need to move. So it is too big for us, and I'm scared because it's very expensive. But I aim for the stars. I'm a very big risk taker, you know. We will fill it. The boys might have a very large office space and a big desk each initially, but you know, as more and more people come on, and you know, then you know, I'm sure we'll be outgrowing it eventually. And you know, we're in there for 5 years. That's the plan, and then we'll see what happens after that. You know, so baby steps, one step at a time. But yeah, you'll see some steel work going up in around a month's time.
Dude, I have zero doubt that you are going to smash it and make a massive success out of it.
Thank you very much.
Top stuff. Mate, I've thoroughly enjoyed the last hour and a half chat with you. I've found it really motivating. You know, listening to your sort of drive and your ambition. It's like, fuck, I need to step up a level here and go for it. You know
what? I'm just so wildly obsessed with it and excited. And if I'm not, then I'm doing something wrong. And if I can excite and inspire people around me as I kind of go along, then fantastic. You know, I can build this energy up around people and the whole brand and the business and kind of grow it and take everyone along for the journey. Then that's fantastic. You know, so it's nice, you know, if I feel like I've motivated you, then that's fantastic. And that's brilliant.
Positivity breeds positivity. It's the way to go.
It's all positive vibes here. It's all positive.
Top man. Right, before we draw it to a close, I'll pass it back over to you. Any shout outs you want to give, any plugs you want to give? The floor's yours.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you everyone for watching. I really do appreciate everyone who watches our YouTube, Thornton Hundred Motorcycles YouTube, Instagram, as we move on to TikTok too. You guys, young guys, you know, get involved, keep commenting. Just a very little promotional point thing. We have new clothing dropping at the end of the month. We have t-shirts and caps. Obviously, we spoke about the t-shirts. We do have the caps too. And we're on a road to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. So please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube.
I'm not jealous in the slightest.
We're on our way. We're growing. And we're always on. We're also, if you've seen on our social media recently, we're looking out for ambassadors. We're growing our ambassador team. I want Thornton 100 to be absolutely everywhere where someone looks. You know, I want our competitors to turn around and I am there, you know, on a T-shirt with their favourite ambassador, you know, and I'm hoovering up every ambassador that there absolutely is. So if you think you are going to be a good fit for the brand, if you think that you know, we're not looking for huge followings, you know, if you think that you will be a good ambassador for us, basically, and we can bring you out to the shows and put you on our demo bikes, then please do get in touch. Email marketing@thornton100.co.uk and we'll get you on board. Keep an eye out for the updates on the new workshop and also the updates on the world's fastest bobber as we try and do 180 miles an hour, which is going to be an interesting one on a non-dead bike. So yeah, it's one of them. But and thank you so much, Bruce, for your time and on air. This has been fantastic, thoroughly enjoyable, and a very nice kind of wind down to my very hectic 2 weeks. And I'm going to Bournemouth now for 3 days with the boys, and we're going to get on the beers and go for a bit of cycling and beach fun. So
mega man, enjoy that. Enjoy. It's been my absolute pleasure, pal. It really has. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, listening and hearing your story. And like I said, I've got loads from this. Like, you know, I've been in a little bit of a doldrum in this last lockdown thinking,
it's
you
horrible.
Just, and you've given me the kick up the arse, the boot in the balls that I need to pull my finger out and let's hit it. Let's smash
it, man. Let's get it together. Let's collaborate. Let's do things together. Let's grow and let's absolutely just take over the internet because that's what it's
100%. 100%. Love it. Folks, like I said, all the links to Jody and the Thornton 100 socials, the website, the YouTube channel, I'll even put the TikTok on there. Whatever that is. I'll put the TikTok on the internet. Yeah. I'll put all the links down below, folks. So if you listen to the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're watching the YouTube vid, check out the description. Make sure you give them a subscribe because they're almost at 100,000 subscribers. So, let's do that. Jody, thank you very much for coming on, pal. Folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. Keep on doing your thing. Get on out there whenever you can. Look after those that you love. But most importantly, live your life. Woo-ha!
Fantastic. Brilliant.